few slides that I would like to share with you, just to set the mood, let's say, and introduce the keywords of our webinar. There are a few keywords that I would just like to go through with you in order to get the stage ready for the great discussion that we are going to have with representatives of the sectoral actors that are engaged in fight against energy prices, in the push toward energy renovation of the building stock of the European Union, and of course in promoting a one-stop shop approach all over the Union. Well, first of all, energy prices is the first keyword. It's not a new thing. I mean, we've been seeing energy pricing rising last year after the post-COVID surge in global energy demand, and the Commission has been working since then on energy prices. But then this year, things have gotten significantly worse since February, since the invasion of Ukraine and the use of energy as a political weapon. And since then, several pieces of legislation have been put in place by the Commission. And also household owners have been called up to do their part in reducing energy consumption. The second keyword of the webinar is energy renovation. This is also not a really new thing. I mean, it's a cornerstone of the European Green Deal. It's a precondition to clean energy transition. And of course, we've been having the Renovation Wave for Europe strategy since 2020, focusing on energy poverty, focusing on the refurbishment of worst performing buildings, and promoting the decarbonization of heating and cooling. And the one-stop shops. The one-stop shop concept is also not new per se. I mean, it's something that we have been working on for a few years now. And the one-stop shop concept was also introduced in the Energy Performance of Building Directive, in fact. And since then, the Commission has put on the table a number of funding opportunities as well for one-stop shops. The home renovation services topic under H2020 first, and then now under Life Plus. The project development assistance that is now under Life Plus, or the ELENA facility that has also been funding approaches, including also a one-stop shop approach. Well, under the umbrella of the PadovaFIT Expanded project, we've been working with the Bocconi University in Milano, and they have led an interesting research, and they have published a paper on the existing approaches used in one-stop shops. And they've come out with a distinction in 3 different types of one-stop shops that I would like to share with you very briefly now, just to, just to set the scene and just give a little scientific view to the one-stop shop approaches that we have seen all over Europe for a few years now. Bocconi University has divided them in facilitation model, coordination model, and development model, according to their business model, in fact. The facilitation model is considered to be a light approach. It accompanies the owner in an orientation phase, trying to reduce the information gap, and providing all this information and initial services for free. And usually there is not a clear and structured network of technical partners in such a model. Then there is a coordination model, they call it this way, because in this case, the one-stop shop is more of a coordinator and project manager approach. It's the main point of contact for the owner, and it accompanies the owners throughout the whole renovation journey, which, as we know, is quite complex. This type of one-stop shop usually offers quality guarantee over the work and the energy savings. And it usually has a strong collaboration network with market players. And oftentimes a fee is required to access to this kind of services. And then Bocconi University called the last and most structured one-stop shop approach the development model. Again, it's a very structured organization. It accompanies the owner throughout the whole renovation journey, offering integrated and tailor-made solutions. It offers guarantees on the quality of work and on energy savings. It often has also financial products available to the consumers. And oftentimes, market players are not real partners, that are more subcontractors, because in this case, the one-stop shop has its own business model with a financial business model and payback times and so on. So these are the three archetypes, as they call them, of a one-stop shop. And this is could be a base for further discussion. And talking about one-stop shops, under the umbrella of the PadovaFIT Expanded project, the municipality of Padova has developed one. I've been involved in this work, but today I will be the moderator. So just to let you know that the municipality of Padova has been working on a one-stop shop, public one-stop shop, a municipality-led one-stop shop that has been providing information for free, has created contacts with networks of professionals and companies and banks, and provides citizens with contacts to those organizations, and has been providing services on a non-fee base, initial technical, legal, little bit of economical and financial services, and some evaluation of third-party proposals. So this is what the municipality of Padova has been doing. So it has been going from a facilitation model, let's say, and it's developing into a coordination model, if we want to use the terminology proposed by Bocconi. And finally, since it's a municipal one-stop shop, it has slowly become the operative arm for climate neutrality and fight against energy poverty. According to Italian legislation, and I want to put this consideration on the table, a public one-stop shop cannot interfere with the market. It cannot be in competition with private players. So the one-stop shop of the municipality of Padova is going to focus mainly on that part of the market that is least interesting, let's say, for the private players, and it's going to focus mainly on filling the gap that generates, the market gap that generates and supports energy poverty, in fact. But of course, the municipality, in doing that, is keeping an ongoing and steady relationship with all technical, financial, and managerial stakeholders. And so this is what is being happening within the PadovaFIT Expanded project. And this is enough, I'd say, from my side. I would like to leave the floor now to our speakers. We have a few minutes for an opening statement by each panelist. And therefore, I would like to invite each one of them. You have 2 minutes to introduce yourself and say whatever you feel these keywords are telling you and what you would like to share with our audience. And if you agree, then I would like to introduce Emmanuel Kos, representing the International Union of Property Owners and also partner of the life-funded project Condorino. Emmanuel, the floor is
Yeah,
yours.
good morning, everyone. Very glad to be here. We are not many in this call, but I see that lots of experts on the topic. So I'm extremely glad not only to have all these panelists who really, I think, the main stakeholder on the issue, but also to see among the participants some people who are really knowledgeable. So I hope we'll have a great discussion. So I represent the International Union of Property Owners. We are an umbrella association based in Brussels, representing private property owners in Europe. So we have National Association of Homeowners, so they are mainly consumers. We have associations of small private landlords, but we also have an organization that do represent everything that is private real estate in the country, so from the small one to the big one. So what our members have in common in the end is they are all building owners, and as such, of course, they are one among the main actors on energy efficiency and renovation. So for the one who knows me, I've been defending and promoting a one-stop shop for like years now, many years, and I'm so glad to see that the topic is really getting momentum. I strongly believe that one-stop shop are one of the main tools in order to smooth the renovation process. So there's maybe not a silver bullet, but it's part of the artillery, I would say. So, and I'm glad to see as well that in the current EU legislation, the topic is getting also more and more important. You mentioned the energy efficiency, energy performance of building directive, the EPBD. We see that in Parliament, they are now even planning on article on one-stop shop. So it's really getting quite an important topic. But we have a long way forward, I think, to massify and more importantly, to perpetuate one-stop shop. So there are lots of questions around that, and I'm glad to have a chance to discuss that with all of you today. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Emmanuel. We'll have time to discuss about the PBD and the opportunities for one-stop shops to be introduced in the present legislation. Now I would like to introduce Guillaume Joly, representing the European Consumer Organization. Guillaume, the floor is yours. You have 2 minutes to introduce yourself, your organization, and your initial statement.
Thanks, and hello, everyone. So, as mentioned, I work for the European Consumer Organization, and what we consider as consumers is all the stakeholders of the residential sector. So we intend to embrace and balance positions for homeowners, tenants, and landlords. So we also are more and more involved on the energy retrofit of housing. We started as consumers, of course, with the questions related to the energy prices, and still are definitely into this topic. But more and more combining and developing the approaches regarding the energy retrofit of homes. So here the question is not only short term, but also long term, because energy retrofit is a long distance race. And for that race, you need support and you need markers. One-stop shops is definitely identified by our members and ourselves as a key instrument to let the market thrive, because consumers are at the moment a bit less left alone on the decision to make on how to design the project they want for their homes, for the energy efficiency improvement, and also how to get information on financing, etc. So we are absolutely aware that it can't be 100% smooth project and pathway, but that's what we aim for consumers, a turnkey project where it's the difficulties are identified and tackled and people get supported.
Thank you, Guillaume. I think you have already pointed out a few topics that we will be discussing soon. So thank you. Now I'd like to introduce Julien Dijol, representing Housing Europe and the Open Gala project. Julien?
Yeah, indeed. Good morning, Marco. Good morning, everyone. So I'm presenting Housing Europe, the European Federation of Social, Cooperative and Public Housing. and which is about 25 million housing units in Europe, 11% of the housing stock. So, but despite being only 11% of the housing stock, the social housing sector is in general the one who has the best energy performance, and in general it is where most of the renovation takes place. And therefore, you may wonder why we are here talking about one-stop shop, which essentially is about homeowners. Well, it's because we have something to say and to bring to the homeowners sector, particularly while we are helping to set up a one-stop shop. So there are basically two main models for the implication of social housing in setting up one-stop shop. The first is when the social housing organization works as a building manager for the renovation of a deprived co-ownership structure. And secondly, when the social housing organization itself is a facilitator of one-stop shops. And we have great example that I will be able to talk to you in more details. In particular, indeed, you mentioned that Open Gela, which is a project in the Basque country, mostly in Bilbao and Eibar. And we have a great example of how the social housing company in Bilbao has helped to set up a one-stop shop for homeowners in multifamily buildings, and has been successful in getting them to renovate their homes. And one of the reasons why social housing operators are really involved in setting up one-stop shop is basically because first, they have the community building experience, so the long-term relationship with tenants. Second, the environmental and technical expertise, particularly related to procurement process. And third, they have the tools to measure the socio-economic impact. And this is therefore the reasons why social housing organizations are also a relevant stakeholders in the view of setting up one-stop shop in the European region. So I'm happy to be here and to have a good conversation with you. Thanks.
Thank you, Julien. Now I'd like to introduce Fernando Sicchos, representing the European Builders Confederation and also partner of the Condo Reno project, funded by H2020, if I'm not mistaken.
Live, actually. Hello, good morning, everyone. Indeed, my name is Fernando Sicchos Jimenez. I'm the Secretary General of the European Builders Confederation, EBC. EBC is the organization representing National Association of Construction Crafts and Construction SMEs. We are actually representing 19 organizations in 16 countries, and we're based in Brussels. For you to have a clear picture of who we actually represent, we represent all those family businesses, all those local companies that are actually the ones that are going to repair your window, that are going to do the renovation of your houses. And so we're really talking about a key actor in the local economy, in a local community. And that's why, considering now the importance, politically speaking, on the economic side, on the societal perspective, of renovating our buildings, our members, the companies that we represent are actually a key actor in getting their hands dirty doing that work. That's why we have been collaborating and pushing also indeed for one-stop shops as one of pragmatic solution in order to make the renovation wave a reality, which is a nice slogan, but it's actually the truth. We need to find ways to make it hands-on, to make it pragmatic, to show people that there are tools in there to accompany them in order to actually do a renovation. And there is no one-size-fits-all solution, but there might be a certain level of coordination that could be provided to local actors to embark on that journey. But yes, I mean, that construction is one of the sectors that I'd like to also use another very catchy word, that is one of the most resilient, because whatever the prices are, I mean, we still need houses. We still need houses to be fit. We still need houses to be built, renovated. And let's take the last 3 to 4 years with COVID. our activity stopped, even though certain works maintained their activity. But then when we were in a kind of booming situation with a lot of renovation demand, the war in Ukraine hit us, and not only hit us in construction, hit us in all sectors. And we are now in a situation where we have a paradigm with all the political ambition and the right political ambition towards, let's say, a more green society, a more digital one as well. You know, the twin digital and green transition. But at the same time, we are blocked at the very end of that chain when doing the work. Why? Because energy prices are getting crazy. A material supply was already difficult. Now material prices are getting crazy. And we are in a situation where when we manage to put buildings at the heart of the political ambitions, we don't have the means anymore to deliver on that. And here the conversation is very timely because it mixes the issue with rising prices. It mixes the political ambition for the renovation wave to be something. And it also brings us to pragmatic solutions as the one-stop shop could be. And so that's why I'm very happy to join this panel and to exchange with you with certain ideas and thoughts that we have on the construction SME side.
Thank you, Fernando. And then last panelist that introduces a different point of view, the municipal point of view. Anna Tiso, representing the Save the Homes H2020 funded European project.
Thank you, Marco. And hello to everyone. Yeah, so as mentioned, I'm Anna Tiso, and I'm project manager actually for a commercial company, an installation company, Hagen, but also at the same time a coordinator of Horizon 2020 project called Save the Homes, so and a sister project of PadovaFIT Expanded. And today I'm more representing, as Marco mentioned, the perspective of our municipalities. So we work with the municipality of Rotterdam, then with Valencia, and then two follower cities, Ljubljana and Sant Cugat. So I will try to zoom in and share their perspectives. And at the same time, we are a consortium of 11 partnering organizations with quite diverse skills and capacities, from architectural firm and consultancy, renovation consultancy, to high impact investment and financing consulting firm, to research and knowledge institute, to our umbrella association, ICLEI, and of course UIPI. And I'm happy that Emmanuel is today also here. Also, we have, as I mentioned, the municipalities and already existing local energy offices, so quite a broad consortium with all the different skills that are actually needed for actual implementations of one-stop shops. And to already share the perspective from our municipalities, of course, we see really a need for better implementation of one-stop shops, as we really see them as crucial supporting mechanisms that can facilitate this delivery of energy efficiency measures in an efficient manner, and therefore start with worst performing buildings and then also tackle the vulnerable households, as we see now with the current crisis and what we are going to face also in the coming months. This is really crucial, and the need for action is even greater. And to say that, of course, we are going to talk a lot today about policy and actual implementation, but it might sound trivial what I'm going to say, but in Save the Homes project, we really try to approach homeowners renovation from homeowners perspective. And I think this is really important base point. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Anna. Thank you for introducing another point of view. We definitely have several different points of view. You are people that have hands-on, and at the same time, you also have a European view of policies and potential opportunities that could be developed by the European Commission or by the member states. So before we dive directly into the one-stop shop approaches that you have and the different points of view that you represent at local level, I have a question about what you think could be the most short-term and long-term actions that could be used and could be introduced at European and member states level to tackle the issue of energy prices, but also to promote changes and rapid changes in energy renovation. And because, as Fernando mentioned, this is a current political situation where the construction sector has been put under pressure in many member states, but there is at the same time a strong need for energy refurbishment because of higher energy prices. So I just ask you, let's say, an overall point of view, and then we will dive into the technicalities of the one-stop shop. And we would like to keep this panel discussion free, so feel free to jump in. But maybe just to keep the right order, Emmanuel, if you would like to provide your point of view, short and long-term approaches for energy refurbishment in Europe. What is your point of view?
Thank you. Well, we obviously have objectives and targets already in place. So 2050 is the goal. 2050 is decarbonization of our economy, of building sector as well. So that's the objective. The Commission is now putting in place additional objective, additional target, this famous minimum energy performance standards. So, but in the end, what is important, and I think long term as well, is that we need to make sure that we have the tools in place. So, yeah, the target is one thing, but you know, if you don't have the proper tools, accompanying tools, basically the most stringent regulation in the world, the most ambitious one, will remain dead letter. And I think this is a critical thing right now, and we see this very well. And it's exactly what Fernando was mentioning. So we have these long-term objectives. We know we don't have the tools in place. We know we are putting in between targets. We are not sure we will have all the accompanying measure in place to reach this in between targets. So this 2030, 2033 target the Commission is putting in place. And I think the best example is now, because you have the energy crisis, because you have a war in Ukraine, you see that it's maybe a curse, but it's also an opportunity, because I think never before people care that much about energy costs, energy used. We see among our members there's a huge demand for like a more performance heating system, for replacing existing heating system with heat pump, for insulating their buildings. And sorry to say that, Fernando, but as you rightly say, basically the sector cannot cope, because we see that the demand is increasing. Most construction companies now have longer deadlines. They don't necessarily have the material because of, you know, follow-up of the COVID. We still have shortage of materials and shortage of technologies. So like, I almost think, and I was discussing this the other day with my members in Netherlands, because in March last year, they did a survey. So it was even before the war in Ukraine, but they were already raising energy prices. And they had this survey, and they saw that there were like a lack of 20,000 installers and professional in the Netherlands, and that for a heat pump, it was taking between 8 to 12 weeks to have an heat pump installed. And we see now that this timeline is increasing. The lack of available not only heat pump but over appliance is creating a real problem on the market. We see also that when small individual homeowners go to a construction company, they tell them, sorry, but we prefer to focus on larger scale projects. So we really have to tackle this issue. The main bottleneck, I think, is to have the construction sector in place, to make sure that we have also the technology. I mean, we have a know-how. We just need to make sure that we have everything there in order to guarantee that you know, we can reach these targets. So, and one of the way to reach this target is also, of course, to have the accompanying measure like one-stop shop in place. And so therefore we really need to massify this one-stop shop and massify all these tools, and also the financial support next to that is partly part of a one-stop shop. But so it's long-term, short-term, and medium-term, I would say, but everything comes together. Now I think we are really like, we are experiencing now a real life situation, something that might come back in a couple of years if we're not if we cannot guarantee that we put everything in place, and this is crucial, I think.
Thank you, Emmanuel. If anybody else wants to add something, then please feel free. Fernando, you've been held up.
Yes, because it is a sad truth indeed that let's say what is very problematic for me to understand is that at a certain point we're considering that indeed there is a huge demand for renovation, because indeed there is awareness now about the importance to properly heat, properly have a proper house that is efficient regarding all kinds of resources. Fine, but at the same time, and this is not new, this is a long-standing issue that now is, let's say, is even more under the spotlight, because there is an increased attention on the construction sector and its ability to deliver the political ambition. And it is the lack of skills that we have, of skilled workforce. And I'm saying this is not something new. This has been going on for decades. But now, when we are in such a situation, this need to find solutions to the attractiveness of the construction sector. Let's not hide our faces here. We know that construction is not sexy enough for youth. It's not sexy enough for people from other sectors. It's very difficult for us to attract new talent and then to retain it, because it's not about getting people in the construction sector. It's about having the people with the right skills that are actually matching the reality of the market and matching also the political ambitions. And it is true today, the issue that we have is that there might be demand, but we don't have the human resources to deal with that demand. But at the same time, we also feel other type of pressures. Now, for the last year, for 2022, let's say that we have, as EBC, we have been in a situation where we need to accompany our members because most of them are in survival mode. Why survival mode? Because they see that there is demand, yes, but they don't find a way to reflect the increases in prices, the increases of energy in their activity, let's say in the invoicing to clients, because that would be completely counterproductive. That's not the idea. The client shouldn't be paying for the geopolitical tensions that are around. And there we are facing an additional burden to our activity, that if there is demand, at the same time, we're lacking human resources, and we cannot mirror the impact of the price increases in our work. At some point, certain companies, and this is a reality check, are closing or will go bankruptcy because there is no way to survive that economic scenario. Now, the strange situation is that most of our members are saying, okay, we will have work for the 6 months ahead, and 6 months is being very optimistic, but we don't know what's going to happen afterwards, because there is so much uncertainty that then the renovation wave might be killed off actually in the egg. So even before it really was launched. So this is, I know it's a lot of elements mixing with each other, but it's actually the reality check of what we are experiencing right now.
Perfect. Thank you, Fernando. If anybody else wants to jump in, please feel free. Guillaume, and then Anna, and then of course we will have time to go into the local opportunities created by One Stop Shop. So Guillaume, please feel free.
Just to follow up on this question of dire economic circumstances, for the short term, what PERC is calling for is a ban on disconnection for people. You don't want to have, for this winter, people cut off from energy supply. So it's also not only aiming at low-income people, but also lower middle-class people, because for low-income, you have somehow safety net that exists. For lower middle-class people that are now struggling with energy bills, but did not happen before to them, they don't know to whom they can get some support. So a ban on disconnection combine with, for the people who can afford it, a bill deferral, meaning like you have part of the energy bill that is not paid now this winter, but who's going to be spread over the next 5 years. For example, the taxes, the different levies, because what we observe is that energy bills are also laced with costs that are not necessarily directly linked to energy for some of them, and also so many taxes and levies that member states could have an action on, but we call for this bill deferral. On the long-term approach, following up on what Emmanuel said regarding the tools, we have a great opportunity to get the tools right in the different directives, mostly the Energy Performance of Building Directive. We need ambitious, reasonably ambitious minimum energy performance standards, for example, to give marker to people so that they know how to plan for the energy retrofit, so that they have indication of where they should stand at what point in time. But obviously, what we are calling for is also safety nets here to be developed, like support at the financial and technical level for the implementation of minimum energy performance standards. And here, the clear answer for us is the rollout of, you guess it, one-stop shops, because that's where you can get the support to check with the compliance to MEPS. And even before the compliance, it's getting the information on how to design a proper energy retrofit project. Another tool we are calling for quite a strong improvement of are the energy performance certificates. They remain not fully reliable. They need to be fine-tuned regarding the different messages and information they provide to consumers. Here, Burke is calling for energy performance certificates to let people know whether the homes and properties are fit for the installation of heat pump, whether they are heat pump ready. Meaning, like, is my home insulated enough? Should I invest more? Or is it all right because I live near the sea and the climate is just fit for the installation without any substantial investment? Consumers need that information to have the optimum investment plan. Also, regarding financing, what we are calling for is straightforward and more accessible financing and cheaper. It's the whole supply chain of capital that should be addressed from the stage of the European Central Bank and the condition of financing for the banks to the green mortgages provided to consumers. This should be meant to be tackled and be transformed into cheaper instruments. Because that's what's needed to decarbonize the housing stock. You need to have the two leverage action, financing and technical aspects. And to follow up on what Fernando said, what we are calling for are one-stop shops that provide services to accredited installers. Because we are in dire lack of accredited installers. And once they are trained and accredited, you want them to actually implement and install, implement the change and install appliances and materials. You don't want them to be stuck into red tape, losing their time in filling in different forms and administrative actions. So that's an out of silos approach. We are not only thinking of consumers here for the one-stop shop, but also as a service center mirroring what is implemented for consumers for accredited installers. And yeah, we think that the one-stop shops are an investment. They have a cost, but it's the way to lower the transaction cost. At the moment, they are too high, the transaction between the different stakeholders. One-stop shops are the best option to have the lowest transaction cost and have the market to thrive. That were the points I wanted to.
Well, thank you very much. Anna, please, your point of view.
Yeah, maybe would just complement what was already said based on our practical example and lessons learned from the ground. So to double tap on what Emmanuel shared at the start, it's what we see is really crucial to enhance available workforce entering the renovation market is that we see a need to also connect SMEs and especially micro companies into a consolidated collective. And the need for supply side integrators, as we said, at the current times, I mean, after COVID and also now with the situation in Ukraine, of course, led to a quite increase in the demand. But what we see is the lack of workforce, and especially lack of workforce and businesses entering renovation market. So we really need to see how to organize that side. So we can cover and stimulate the ecosystem of professionals. And I think what also Julien was saying, we need, of course, also from policy, this support for implementation and more practitioners capable of implementing one-stop shops at different scales. And again, I think here the key is integration and coordination of the different parts. That it's crucial because we have solutions, of course, not for the demand we have, so for a large portion of the EU's building stock that we need to renovate, but the technology is there. What we also see now is that the money is not really an issue. Of course, access to financing is an issue, but the real issue is, I believe, in how to wire those different solutions from policy to solutions, to infrastructure, to join the dots and match the different demands, the different availabilities, and stream it into a bigger whole. So really into that integrated offer. And yeah.
Well, thank you, Anna. So, well, thank you for your contributions. We've been hearing about the need for short-term tools, calling up for one-stop shops. You've been underlying the fact that there is a lack of skills, but there is demand, but there are high prices in the whole value chain. There is a need to match demand and offer. There is a need for cheaper financing, for reducing transaction costs at local level for real projects. There is a need for refurbishment because energy prices are pushing people towards the need for safety and for feeling safety. And also, you mentioned the energy performance certificates. So also a need for guarantee of the quality of the works from the builders and also the quality of the energy savings to know what is going to happen in the near future to our energy bills. Okay, so everybody and everything is calling up for local short-term solutions, possibly named one-stop shops. We've seen what are the needs. And Julien Dijon, of course, I see you raised your hand. I will leave the floor to you with a further question. And so there are these needs, but also what is the added value that the actors that you represent can bring to a one-stop shop at local level? So the needs are clear, but of course, Julien, if you want to add something, feel free to do that. But then also I have a follow-up question. So what can your actors, the actors that you represent, can bring to a one-stop shop? Please.
Okay, so maybe just, yeah, I will respond to this one, but just before that, just to be clear, I think to my mind, I mean, when we talk about decarbonization or renovation and one-stop shop, that can only happen in the long term. I think we sometimes make a confusion between short-term measures and emergency measures. I think, and sometimes this confusion is reflected in the legislation. For one-stop shop, for renovation, for decarbonization strategies, you need preconditions. Those preconditions take time, an awful amount of time now, even more because of the short-term crisis. And when we discussed with the people in Bilbao for Open Gala, they were telling, I mean, from the public authority point of view, they were telling us that they need three things in order to continue to develop one-stop shop. They need a stable legislative framework. They need more staff in their administration. And for that, I know that Energy Cities, a European organization for energy for cities in transition, they call for more staff for public authorities. So that's the second point. Thirdly, they need the legislation to reflect on the balanced objectives that they have to pursue as a local authorities. And not everything can be solved by renovating the building envelope. I mean, there are a lot of other considerations from the poverty eradication to unemployment to social inclusion and so on. And thirdly, they need the recognition of the importance of public finance. We know there are models of one-stop shops which are kind of private, and basically they take a fees on every operation that has been concluded with thanks to them. But it's not the majority of the one-stop shop that we find in Europe. And probably the most successful ones are the ones which are publicly driven by the public authorities for many reasons. Because actually, this is where the expertise is. And as I said at the beginning, and then I also jump to your second question about what we can bring. I mean, the expertise is where we have stock, so the scale, and actually social housing operators have the scale. So they have the expertise in working with contractors. They have the expertise of making sure that the procurement take into account various considerations and not only the lowest price. And this is very important for us. And I'm sure Fernando might certainly share that point. We absolutely don't want the decarbonization or renovation wave to lead to bad working conditions for the people working in the construction sector. And the risk that they run towards the cheapest option, the lowest cost, will do that. So, and in the social housing sector, we have the expertise in working on social clauses and making sure that any works are done respecting all not only the fundamental rights but the different social objectives. And this expertise we can translate it into the one-stop shops, and so that even though technically speaking, when you are a private homeowner, you don't need to follow the procurement rules. At the end, you also have to look at how procurement is done and to make sure that you do the quality as well as the cost. And this is what we bring to one-stop shop operators and what we brought in Bilbao, for instance. So this expertise is very crucial. And as I said also, the fundamental relationship with tenants. When nothing can be done without the acceptance and without even the buying of residents. And this is, I mean, what we are good at, because they are our tenants and we have this long-term relationship. I mean, I don't say that everything is always perfect. We know that tenants sometimes are not happy with renovation and so on, but there's this long-term relationship and trust that we have, that we think that is very good also in form and a fundamental for one-stop shop. So just I'll stop here for the moment.
Can you hear me?
Thank you, Julien. I think you've made clear point about the short-term versus long-term needs, and not getting panicked by the present situation, but keeping a right way towards energy renovation. And I would like to pose the same question. What added value do you think your organization and the actors that you represent could bring to a local one-stop shop? It could be public-led, as Julien mentioned, and also as Anna represents. It could be private-led. I mean, there are examples of both kinds. What is your opinion? What do you think you can bring to a one-stop shop? And with Guillaume, please.
Well, just to mention that a lot of our members, national consumer defense organization, already provide substantial help and advice at the level of facilitation, as you presented earlier, Marco. Advice on the different materials and appliances available, and also the financing offers that exist. So it's the first brick of the one-stop shops, I would say, that are provided by our members. Question perhaps of subsidies and grants, because as mentioned, it's for free, could be raised. Another aspect is the design of the quality check. What we are calling for is for the one-stop shops to be responsible, or at least have a clear organization accountable for the quality of works. We understand that even if it's well coordinated, even if accredited installers do the best job they can, sometimes there are issues. And as a consumer, what we want to know, and otherwise it can be a deterrent because you will be left on your own with the issue. What you want to know is that even after a few months after the retrofit works, you can just pick up your phone and have someone to talk to and say, well, I have this issue and I'd like it to be fixed, and not be gone again for a few months before it's fixed. Because at the moment, if you remember properly, our German member raised the issue that you have to wait for 6 months to get a quote for the installation of a heat pump. So if you get a 6-month delay to fix a non-properly regulated heat pump in your home during winter, that can become dramatic. So here, consumer organization can help in the design of the quality check, in the sense that we have a lot of suggestions to ensure that quality is there.
Thank you. So facilitation, quality check. Emmanuel, back to you.
I think for us, I'm trying to push a lot for one-stop shop within my organization, and we are very different organization, but I think the main added value of all organization is that they have the trust of people. And in the end, for innovation is all about trust. You need to trust the service, you need to trust the professionals. And that's why as well, when it comes to one-stop shop, it's very important to have this independent type of advice, at least the first step, to have a good, very good first audit. That's the key thing, because if you start providing a service, or you start to build a whole renovation plan based on a bad audit, that's the end basically. So this is the key. I think this key, the trust, is the first step. Then support would be the second step, and maybe also expertise. We have a different type of expertise. We provide as well, as Guillaume said, some kind of, let's say, first step type of advice for our members. We don't go further. I mean, some of our organizations go further, but most of them don't. Actually, sometimes we collaborate with Guillaume members in some countries on the advice part of the energy renovation. I know it's the case in Germany, for example. What we also do in some countries is really like this, reaching this critical mass. So like bringing people together in order to do collective buying, but this is some exceptional case. I guess some consumer organization might also do that. But yeah, this trust for me, it's really the key element, and the good advice. And having a good advice means you need good people in the one-stop shop, and this costs a lot. And maybe we'll come back to that later on. But the main problem in one-stop shop is the human cost, and that's maybe one of the key elements and the key bottlenecks when you come to one-stop shop nowadays. So that's I will stop here. Maybe we can discuss this further.
Thank you, Emmanuel. Anna.
Thanks. Yeah, if I can just add on top what Emmanuel just shared, and of course it relates back to what Julien said before about the needs and expectations, is that of course trust is crucial and decomplexifying the whole process for homeowners. However, I totally agree with Julien that like a precondition here is really support and capacity building at municipality side. Like as I said, I'm going to share more perspective from our pilot cities and follower cities. And what we see is that those cities and regions are committing to ambitions that are going beyond just their national development plans and national energy and climate plans. However, what we see is really that they lack these skills and capacity. So we need to see how can we support them, because only through that they are really like competitive and to ensure this right advice for homeowners, then we can really increase trust, because there are a lot of like quality controls mechanisms and quality checks and certification schemes available, but then in the end, most of people do not trust it. So the question is how this information is brought back to homeowners. And I think here it's really like an opportunity for capacity building and upskilling. And maybe that ties like both needs and expectation and the added value that one-stop shops can bring.
If I may add, Marco, I think actually that's if our construction, let's say, experts can bring something, it's their expertise. And what they can bring is actually the reality of the solutions that are out there in order to accompany people in what is the very project. And so I fully agree with Emmanuel. And actually, I think that the added value of this is to have this very local, tailor-made advice system that builds trust when there is no trust, or that keeps that trust going into the added value brought by renovating your flat, renovating your house. And I would say that is really the key component for me. Here in Guillaume, we're going to another extent, but definitely for me, at least at this step, we need this advisory body. Maybe, Gavin, you were mentioning that the lack of public support. Why not including them there? Having let's say a gathering of private public experts, so that there's really a full range of expertise covering all the, let's say, all the elements that guide an individual through a renovation project.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for all your contributions. Just maybe trying to summarize. You've mentioned local public authority support as an umbrella, as a vision, and to ensure trust and include home refurbishment in local planning and then in the national planning. Knowledge of procurement in order to make sure that we do not go for the lowest price, but we go for quality. And quality check is in fact another point that has been raised. Facilitation among the demand side and the owners. The owners need trust. They need to know that what they receive as information is real and is acceptable and is technically also reasonable. And the builders can bring in this expertise because they know the reality of things and all the technicalities. So I think that all the organizations that you represent at national but also at local level can bring something to a one-stop shop. So thank you for your contributions. But now, what do you think is lacking to one-stop shops and to the one-stop shop approach? What do you think we need at local level to improve the one-stop shop approach? Any point of view? Guillaume, please.
Elephant in the room, funding. I really think it's the key question, and I agree that at the local level, the local authorities need to be supported in the implementation at the technical level, but I am concerned that to some extent there is to be more engagement and accountability on the political side as well, because not all mayors want to be active, not all presidents of local authorities want to be or identify their role in this energy transition. So we need both aspects. Regarding funding, one of the funding sources we identified at BERC are the recovery and resilience funds. Because as mentioned, we are faced with bottlenecks with the workforce, with the materials, and with cheap funding. So we see that there are substantial, in the billions, envelope allocated for a residential retrofit. So my best guess is that they won't be disbursed at 100% because they can't be, because you don't have the channel for the investment yet. So first thing first would be to kickstart one-stop shops with any remaining envelope from the recovery and resilience funds. That would be, I think, very useful.
If I may add on the experience from Save the Homes, I totally agree with what Julian shared now. And I do think, I mean, the financing is a great challenge, not only for the renovation works, but also for running those one-stop shops. And I think, I mean, whoever is experienced in operational one-stop shops, we can see that oftentimes it fails to develop truly self-sustainable models. Of course, all those EU support is great, but what you see then, that to really reach the scale and long-term sustainability, you need somehow more stable support. And I do think that public funds here are cost-effective in a way that you mobilize so many investment, and the impact you achieve with the energy efficiency saving is greater than compared to the cost of running one-stop shop. So I think this is also something, again, that calls in for a more EU level support. And yeah, I think like in that way, the economic viability of one-stop shops shouldn't be really a question, where those public supports can be stable enhancement and really in a cost-effective way. So.
Emmanuel, please.
No, there are business models for private one-stop shop, but they are far from being the majority. Why? Because I say the human factor in one-stop shop is huge, because you need to invest so much time, you need to have a perfect auditor, you need to have a perfect, the knowledgeable professional in order to provide the right advice and the right service. And this is costly. And I know we are talking about economic viability of one-stop shop for years. We are, and in the end, I'm sorry, I don't want to be pessimistic, but I'm not sure we can reach this economic viability ever, let's say. So the question is, yeah, public funding. So I would agree with Anna with the fact that in the long run, if public authority are committed to promote renovation of their building stock, they need to put in place the tools. And I always mention that, but this first step, the audit, the information, this first step information should remain free and free for everyone, because this is where you get people on board. And if you don't manage to provide this service to any homeowners, any landlord, even in Europe. I'm talking about small landlord. The larger one is a different situation, of course. They have their own army of professionals in-house, so that's a different situation. But if you don't provide this service, I think it's a huge missed opportunity, and people will go on, let's say, they will go for step-by-step renovation in any case, even if you provide the one-stop shop, but they will do it in an intelligent way, avoiding possible, later on bottlenecks, etc. So this first step, it requires investment in one-stop shopping in the long run. And there are some one-stop shop, again, running on the commercial basis are quite successful. I think they normally take a percentage of a renovation cost, but it's in the end it's not far from an architect type of services. So it's only for people who can really afford it, and only for people who are already willing to do something. So in order to get everyone on board and everyone willing, you need to provide this kind of, let's say, first step, good free advice. So that's why I think we need to invest in one-stop shop.
Thank you, Emmanuel. Julian.
Yeah, no, I think so. The question now is where we should have this one-stop shop, and I think the answer is that whatever. I mean, basically, I know. Sorry, yeah, strangely, sorry, the camera is on my computer but off on screen, and I'm sorry for that. I don't know why. Okay,
it's okay. We're very much interested in your words.
Yeah.
I mean, so feel free to go on.
Yeah. So yeah, I think again, sometimes there are some laudable objectives, like, you know, European Parliament is saying, okay, we will have one-stop shop for every 50,000 inhabitants. I think it's not the right approach. We really need to stick where the let's say where the willingness is, and in some cases the willingness is at the level of the regional government, like we know in Brussels, 1.5 million inhabitants. Sometimes the willingness is at the level of the local municipal housing company, like in Bilbao, and this is really what matters. And in other cases, like in France, they set up a national public service for renovation. So I think if there is any obligation in relation to one-stop shop, that's just should be at the level of the member state to find the right place and the right instruments. But we have to be careful. I mean, sometimes we are in a bit of a panic mode and thinking, okay, we need to do something absolutely, and in fact, it doesn't work. So really need to stick where the willingness and where the expertise is, and sometimes could be the regional, local, national level. So that would be a bit my point now. And sorry for the camera.
Thank you, Julien. Emmanuel?
No, I wanted to react to Julien because I agree with him. I was talking about this article the Parliament is pushing on one-stop shop. Is one-stop shop per 50,000 inhabitants. I think it's very low. I mean, it's a great intention, but in the end, you know, it shouldn't be an obligation and just tick the box. It should really come from a really local willingness. I think it's beyond national level, maybe, Julien, it's really at local level. And I think in the end, the willingness needs to be there. You need to think about your local model. You need to think what is, you know, I mean, there is not such a thing as full replicability. We discuss a lot with Anna about that, but replicability of a one-stop shop model. I think this one-stop shop should really come from the local level, brings together all the actors. I think I'm so sorry to see most of the time that there are one-stop shop out there, but there is a willingness from local community, but they don't go and speak to Fernando's member, they don't go to speak to Guillaume members and our members. So they're just there, they're doing their thing, but it's again a missed opportunity. So I think, yes, it's a button up in the end. We can have like a framework, facilitate at EU level, we can facilitate at national level, but in the end it has to come from a local need, or like even, as I say, private actors, even if it's not always, the case, but it has to come from like thing. It's a button up approach. And we can just facilitate at EU level and at national as well.
Guillaume, and then Fernando has been strangely quiet, so I guess you also raised your hand. Okay, perfect.
Just a quick comment on this 50,000 threshold. It's blind to the local territory realities. 50,000 what? In rural area or in a neighborhood in Paris? That's definitely different. So you can't be applying a level up threshold like this without taking into account the local realities, and the rural-urban divide is one key.
For me, it was going back to one of the keywords mentioned before. It's about trust. If you force any EU-funded initiative based on a threshold that is not reflecting the reality of the market, you're not going to get trust. You're going to have more obstacles in order to sell the goodwill behind such an initiative. And so actually you're going to confront yourself with a local society, a local economy that will not be reactive. I fully agree here about the bottom-up approach. There might be regions, there might be cities, there might be bigger geographical areas than that are interested and really pushing for it because there might be a market. But indeed, a threshold, blind is the right word. And plus, I'm worried about how, the real perception that citizens will get of the tool if it goes in that direction. and that would be worrisome for all of us, and especially, I mean, counterproductive for the rationale behind this initiative.
Well, thank you for your contribution. Probably summarizing, and correct me if I'm wrong. Well, public funding is something that is shared by everybody. Political commitment is needed, and sometimes public funding and political commitment go together. Initial audits should be for free because those build trust, those support building trust, because they give the initial information and cover the initial information gap that owners might have. There is an opportunity for private one-stop shops, but the economic viability is tough. So general consensus on public funding and political commitment. And as to obligations on where and where to have one-stop shops, no blind thresholds, meaning there should be, as Julian said, an obligation at member state to support and decide where it could be relevant to have a one-stop shop. It could be at regional level, at provincial level, at local level, depending on the different situation. And as Emmanuel said, well, the replicability is low, meaning that we have, as experts, understood that there is a framework. There are things that should be done at local level to create a one-stop shop, but they cannot be replicated from one place to another because of many different things and reasons. The legislation, the different stakeholders, the culture, the needs, and the technology that should be used. So thank you also for this contribution that went beyond my question, in fact, about the needs of one-stop shop. But public funding, political commitment, and sort of a direction from member states on where to put and create one-stop shops. Did I summarize it correctly? Is there something else that you would like to add, Guillaume?
Just quickly, I guess the models would be a hybrid between public and private funding. For most of the facilitation and coordination part, you can rely on public funding, but that some parts of the services provided could be at a cost, but then they shall not be an entry cost, an upfront cost. You should think of how everyone can access the service without having to pay upfront, because it's needed if you have a deep retrofit project to have coordination capacities, and this has a costs that then spending, or even an audit, but then spending 1,000 euros to, I'm just giving an up in the air number to illustrate. But if you give a 1,000 to then structure a 50,000 retrofit project to make it twice as efficient, that really makes sense in terms of energy savings.
Perfect, thank you. Emmanuel?
Nothing to do with your question, but I like your presentation of a different model of one-stop shop. When you were mentioning a Padova one, I know that CINEA colleagues have also developed their own models of one-stop shop with this, I think it was advisory, support, and implementation. So, but what I like is also the modular aspect. So let's say you aim for one full range one-stop shop, and then you give different possibility to different owners. Because we had this discussion with Fernando colleagues years ago. For example, sometimes owners are very keen on choosing their own professional. They don't like to be, they like to go to the guy that's been working for the last 50 years and they know him and they knew his fathers. And so you need to give the possibility to adapt different approach. And maybe the best one-stop shop would be a one-stop shop who provide the full range, but give different solution to different type of owner, to different type of organization, and at the same time build this trust. And then according to the modularity and what you choose as an option, then you might have a cost. Of course, you will have a cost down the line, as you show in your model for PadovaFIT. Is a bit, I think, what's the idea behind, right? Well, the more you get support, you have to contribute to some extent. Of course, you pay your own professional, but also for the, let's say, the overall service. There are also, as you mentioned, I think also in your example, this model when this kind of pay-as-you-save scheme, so you can, let's say, you have the part of the cost provided and financed by one-stop shop, but at the end as well, you pay back on the energy savings. So there are different models. I think what should be the aim is to go for like a full range type of model, and then again, depending on what you can provide for different type of owners as well. You have, as we say, people in energy poverty, people who can afford less. So you have to have a modular kind of system. I think this would be, if you talk about replicability, this would be maybe what should be considered. So yeah.
If I can just add on top of that, what Emmanuel just said, of course, we've seen in Save the Homes also this difference in different one-stop shop models and implementation models. I mean, we have two pilot cities, as I mentioned, Valencia, that has more of advice model, so more on the upstream activities, really information engagement with homeowners. And then like in the Rotterdam, where the demand is quite high, it's more on the support model. So really already showing them list of trusted contractors with quality control, etc. But again, here I want to say what before was said, the need for, I mean, that it's more like a bottom-up approach, so that the local initiatives have to be like coming and approaching the implementation of one-stop shops on their own. And I think it's really, really important to strengthen, again, the role and skills of these local actors and local governments, so they can implement the one-stop shop model that it's like applicable and the most efficient for their local context, for their needs, etc. And I think here again, the need for community of practitioners to share these lessons learned and approaches and experience is crucial. And especially if we talk about that each member state or each country should have their own way of implementing these one-stop shop models based on like areas. The crucial part is that they have these best practice examples, so they can learn from, that they can exchange from the information and like experience. So this is maybe my concluding.
Absolutely. And actually, I have a question for support from Masha. Do we have any questions from the audience? I mean, we are fully in the Q&A session. So I would like to ask if there are any questions in the chat, or if anybody from the audience want to pose a question. If so, please feel free to do so, because we have a few more minutes. Then we will have to say goodbye to our panelists. So this is your chance to ask a question. In case,
Marco, I haven't seen any questions. I think we were very much into the discussion.
There is a raised hand.
There is a raised hand.
Yes, good morning. My name is Chris. Hi, my name is Chris. Thank you very much for all your presentations. Very interesting. I work for a citizen cooperative in the Basque Country. So we know the Open Gela project, for example, and we are considering offering services to our members related to home renovation, probably starting from the facilitation model. I really like the classification also. Now, my question, we have been talking to a Belgian cooperative who have been working on a kind of one-stop shop service, and they were working on what you could say would be the coordination model when they were talking with local construction companies and accredited companies, you could say. But they said that they stopped that model because when the market was slow, then these actors would be quick to respond. But when the construction market was accelerating, then they would stop responding, and they, as the one-stop shop, would commit to their members, but they couldn't deliver. And so they stopped doing that. Do you think there is a way out of this dilemma?
If I can share based on like a peer-to-peer experience from our project in Rotterdam, so in the Dutch situation, which is quite similar to the Belgian market, I believe, is we are facing same in the pilot project in Rotterdam. So how to get really interest and engagement and commitment from SMEs to deliver renovation measures, especially now that like the construction sector and especially new construction is really a hot market. And what we are doing is like really working with the local municipalities, with Gemeente Rotterdam, to look on how can we offer what I mentioned before, this to organize them in a collective, like different SMEs, more micro companies into a collective, and that they can deliver renovation measures. And of course, also to look on how can we make it more profitable by also adding some fundings from local governments, from the national schemes that can like increase the profits for these companies. So of course, if you're interested, I can also put you in contact with the Dutch ecosystem to have direct exchange.
Thank you, Anna.
Briefly respond to Anna. I have some contacts at the Home Energy, the organization as Energy Samen, so I could also talk to them, but thank you very much. I'll be in touch.
I think Emmanuel and Guillaume and Julian also want to respond to that.
I want to add.
So Chris,
I want to add to.
Stay put. Emmanuel,
Sorry,
please.
I want to add to what Anna said, because I think actually the Rotterdam model Anna mentioned is very interesting for you, Chris, because it started as well from an energy community. They were an energy communities first. They have been supported by the city of Rotterdam, who brought together a few energy communities, and then now they are developing the one-stop shop based on the, let's say, the framework of the energy community. What is interesting is because of the energy community, they have also their own private finance. So somehow they have support for the public authority, they have a structure in place, and they have a critical mass. And I think it's where the energy community are very interesting when it comes to getting the professional interested. Is exactly that. You can bring together a certain number of people who are ready to renovate. They are there. You can have this because I wasn't mentioning before, basically nowadays what you face is often professional who tell you your project is too small, I need to focus on bigger projects. So here you can really bring this critical mass, you can have this collective purchasing. So that's a very interesting model of energy community developing into one-stop shop. That's why I wanted to add to what Anna was saying.
Thank you, Emmanuel. Julian and then Guillaume.
Yeah, thanks. And sorry. Just a reflection, and I'm sure that probably Guillaume will not agree with me, but sometimes the more choices you have, the more complicated it is. And from our experience with one-stop shop is that if you suddenly have plenty of different options, and individual people will start to really be confused. And the success factors for Open Gila is that you had one community center. And now I wonder if suddenly you create energy communities which want to turn into one-stop shop. I mean, we're going to have an issue some people will not know exactly what to do, to whom they're going to have to address. And I think energy communities are great, but I suppose it has to be focused on on producing low carbon energy. And I wonder whether the multiplicity or the multiplication of initiatives which label themselves as one-stop shop can be a bit detrimental at the end. And maybe it's because I'm French and I like when something is a bit centralized, but public services related to renovation are certainly something for individuals and for consumers, something very easy to understand. And simplicity, I guess, is one of the guiding principles in the current context. I don't know. I mean, maybe Guillaume have another view.
Thank you, Julien. Guillaume.
I would say a complementary view, being French as well, but perhaps not with exactly the same perspective. What Berk is supportive of, Berk and its member, are workers' cooperative. I think it's on the scope of possibilities, an interesting point. Not saying that public services or fully private are not up to the task, but it's just one of the aspects we are supportive of workers' cooperative, because you can have a mutualization of all the of tackling all the red tape I was mentioning earlier, like administrative burden, etc. And also it brings a critical mass for the clusters. So you have a trade-off between the contract I want to have as an individual worker, contract I want to have, and obligation I have to do for the cooperative. Like if you have, sorry, I won't be able to express this in English. I need to find another way. You have a certain level, minimum level of contracts you have to address for the cooperative, and then you are also free to address your own contracts. It's a mutual platform, but we think the cooperative can be efficient.
Okay, thank you. I have the feeling that we could go on for a long time, but maybe just one last round of comments. And then we will have to close. I think Anna was also had also a hand up, and then Emmanuel.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to add upon what Joanne was saying about like a role of energy communities in it. I think it's a great opportunity, of course, to include those actors, because they are really what we talked before about trust. They are quite trustworthy organizations because they are grassroots organizations in most cases among like other citizens, or like at least in the districts where they're active. So I think it's really, again, about integration and coordination. And of course, that's also a challenge, because what we see is, of course, now with municipality and organizations that are already active and existing initiatives is more on how to organize it in a working structure, and how to ensure those different infrastructures to facilitate the working together part so that we can really achieve the impact, because in the end, it's about really like getting things done and actions. And of course, we have to see which stakeholders on a local level are for that important. And I think in that way, of course, we mentioned it, but public-private partnerships have a tremendous potential to guarantee these new businesses and kind of create jobs and pave the road for these renovations to take place at scale. So maybe that's from the concluding part. Thank you so much.
Emmanuel?
Yeah, I wanted to react to what Junior was saying. I agree with him. I just wanted to specify that in the Rotterdam model is not one energy community. The Rotterdam city itself, or the Rotterdam local community, brought together all existing local energy communities, so not only one. And they are managing and they provide a service. So it's not like a one, I agree with you, that is the risk, but if everyone goes with his own little initiative, it could be a mess. But in that case, it's some kind of framed into by the local authorities. So that's a slightly different model. But the fact that there is this grassroots kind of initiative and this trust indeed, that's very important. So in the end, just to conclude, maybe, it's all about trust. And it's all about, there is not such a thing as a perfect model of one-stop shop. I think we have to be quite innovative in Europe. There are lots, leave freedom to, as we say, don't set very specific targets, but let's, I think, the local authority, let's this bottom-up approach. As long as there is trust and as long as there is some kind of, I think, control, that's, I think, we have any way to massify one-stop shop in Europe. So we have different ways to do so, and we should, all of us work in order to make sure that all these initiatives trustfully, working properly, financed properly, and can, be long-run solution. That's, I think, the key elements, and bring it together all the actors.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you all. Well, when we want to refurbish a house, an apartment, or a villa, or a multi-level building, then in the end, we go to the builders because we need them to do the job. So, Fernando, since you've been quiet for the last round, is there anything else you want to add?
I was thinking about again, something that we mentioned, that we are lacking people, human resources. And we're lacking people in one-stop shops, that's a fact. we are lacking people also on the sites in the construction companies. So this is a message I've been trying to share in all platforms, is that whatever the environmental ambition we have, we need to do this kind of reality check. That is that whatever that ambition is, we need the people to work on it, and we don't have them. So now I would say that it is more than strategic to push for different initiatives in order to know how to better target the people that could be a potential addition to our workforce. And in that sense, going back to the PBD, one of the things we are pushing forward is that if we are talking about a very high ambition, we also need a baseline scenario. And regarding skills, this is what we consider we need now, is to do a kind of mapping of the forces that are active nowadays in national member states, so that then we can elaborate scenarios in order to reach the amount of skilled workers that we need in order to make the political ambition, the environmental ambition, a reality. So we need to collect that data, and that's very hard to do. But I think it's now time to also make it a priority, so that we finally have a better overview of what's going on there, so that then we can shape the training practices, we can shape the promotional activities in order to attract new people, and also we can shape a bit better the discussions we have, because we wouldn't see where we are definitely missing the people with the right skills for electrification, the right people for heat pumps installing, PV installing. All that is very SME oriented, and we need to do that mapping before getting into further matters.
Thank you, Fernando. I would like to thank all of you, Emmanuel, Guillaume, Anna, Fernando, Julian, for making this panel discussion so very interesting. I hope there will be the chance to continue this discussion. I think we should meet every year to see the advancements and the new good practice that we develop together. I'd like to thank the audience for staying with us. It's now time to close. I'd like to finally thank Masha Tal from Climate Alliance and Mara Oprea for the organization. Thank you all. I think you've done all the work and kept in touch with the panelists and everything. So thank you very much. And one last thing, the webinar has been registered. So there will be the chance to have a link and watch it again for any of you at home or the office or wherever you are, because I know that Mara is at the airport, for example. Then there will be the chance to watch the webinar again, and slide presentation will also be available. So thank you again, and hopefully see you soon.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much.
Stay warm.